Hey, this is Sam from the Select Characters Podcast. I've got Ryan, Chris, and Enrique with me, and this week for our game club, we played Borderlands 2, and Chris chose it. You want to tell us a little bit about Borderlands 2?
For the people that don't know that game, Borderlands 2 is a cel-shaded loot explosion of guns and over-the-top violence. It's a co-op shooter, but you can play it on your own, and it's sort of set up like an RPG on an alien planet, and you're a vault hunter, someone who hunts vaults. You wouldn't have guessed that. And those vaults are full of loot. It's full of weird writing, strange characters, and it's ridiculously funny. And I thought that was a good idea to play with the four of us, because the game allows for 4 players co-op, and we're 4. So yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was great. And I think that's the game's biggest strength, and also its worst weakness is that it is so much more fun when you have a full group of people.
Yeah, but that's the quote-unquote problem with most co-op games, isn't it?
Yeah, I own both Borderlands games, and ever since I first started playing them, it's been hard for me to play by myself. Every time I play, I have to play with people, and when I play Borderlands 2, I always play with a group of 4.
Well, I played the first one as well, and like you, I couldn't get into it, but Borderlands 2, I played over 100 hours of that, and most of that, like 90% of that, is on my own. I thought that game was really enjoyable on your lonesome.
See, I had the exact opposite. I like Borderlands 2 and everything, but I felt like I spent more time invested in the first one, and the sequel kind of felt like a bit of a rehash and not enough to separate it.
I guess. I don't know. I played the first one too. I thought this one was also equally just as good. It just seemed like more. Like, instead of not enough, it just seemed like more of everything that was good from Borderlands 1.
Yeah, more streamlined as well. I mean, the UI had a significant upgrade. It looks slightly better. I mean, there's not much you can do with that art style, I guess. I mean, you want to keep it as cartoony as possible, but it felt very streamlined and just more enjoyable overall. I think the soundtrack was better. I think the amount of guns you could get was way, way, way larger and more varied. Yeah, I like the second one over the first one, which is why I chose the second one and not the first one. Plus, the second one has got 4 or 5 expansion packs, and they're all really, really good. And the best one, in my opinion, is Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon's Keep, which is just a huge parody of nerd culture and Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, stuff like that. And it's fantastic.
But as a game, when we played it, it was really great. The gunplay felt really awesome, and we didn't get too far as 4. I got a little bit farther playing by myself, which was kind of a bummer, like I said before. But I mean, just the game is just great. It's all over the top, and the little, like, the splash screens when you meet new characters, that comic book style. It's all really good.
What did you guys think of the classes that you could play?
The Psycho class is actually really fun.
I played 2 different classes.
Which one?
The Psycho class. I thought it was probably one of the most unique classes they could have brought in.
Yeah, Krieg, he's hilarious.
See, and I think, like, for me, one of the most enjoyable things about Borderlands is just kind of the flavor text and all the side conversations you hear. So Krieg is probably like one of my favorite characters because of that, because he's got all those random side comments that just completely off the wall that kind of keep it entertaining.
What's their special thing? Like, when they take damage, they get health back?
Yeah,
like
he can, what is it? He sets himself on fire, and basically he can use himself as like a living battering ram.
Spouting like nonsense while he does it.
I was trying to find, I mean, talking about the character classes, I sort of had trouble finding one that really felt like it clicked with me.
Yeah, I actually, I felt that way too. That's why I played Commando, because I felt like it was just kind of the most run-of-the-mill character.
Yeah.
You know which one was kind of disappointing, believe it or not? Zero.
Really? That's my main, actually.
I don't know, like, I wanted to like him, but because when they show him in the trailer, you see like this badass, like, deep brooding ninja that speaks in haikus, but when you really use him, like, that melee aspect isn't really like that useful in comparison to his like sniping tree.
Yeah, I used a sniping tree exclusively, really, because that could make him ridiculously powerful.
Which, so I don't know, I felt like I was kind of misled because when they show the trailer, they show like this quote unquote new looking class that uses like his beam sword. So like, oh man, this is gonna be awesome. And that beam sword's probably the last thing you want to touch.
Yeah, I never really used that much. I mean, you can ask Ryan and Sam. I love snipers. That's one of the guns that I use the most, really, and I'm actually quite good at it, which is why I stick to it.
I think I maybe should have tried that a little bit more. I think the sniping maybe felt the best. I mean, if you laid it out, assault rifles, shotguns, all that stuff, the sniping was probably the coolest aspect.
What did you guys feel? How did you feel about the combat overall? Did you feel like it was pretty tight and like fluid and smooth, or how did it feel to you guys?
Yeah, it was pretty tight. I've mentioned this on the podcast before. There's one thing I don't like about Borderlands, and that is that the bullets have speeds instead of being instantaneous, which I find pretty annoying every now and then.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's really annoying when you there's some mobs where they'll say they're flying or something, and they'll fly in one spot for a while and they fly away, and it's like you aim for where they are and then they fly away at the last second. It's super annoying.
Yeah, it's mostly torque guns that do that.
I felt like the combat, I liked it. It felt really tight and smooth, but it was a little chaotic for me, especially when you get the bigger mobs or the bosses. There were a lot of times where I would die or go down and I didn't even know why. And I think that was frustrating because I felt like, at least let me know why I'm dying.
Yeah, the game does tend to throw waves at you.
Yeah.
It was a little bit floaty, but I think that that's totally intentional. I think that's exactly what they wanted. And it also, I sort of prefer the games, where you take enemies down in 1 or 2 hits, and some of the guys in this, you got to really shoot them up real good.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that might have come from just the fact that we were using those lower level weapons. Like, I didn't get far enough into the game where I was getting something super powerful.
Mm-hmm.
No, that never really changes, actually.
No? Okay. Well, that's kind of a bummer.
Yeah, that's probably one of my biggest pet peeves against the game. Is just that after a while, you get these weapons that they're really awesome in terms of damage and the elemental properties, but to compensate, the game throws these enemies that are just massive bullet sponges where it feels like you're sitting there shooting at them for an hour.
Yeah, even just the regular dudes, they were like, you would shoot them, but it didn't really feel like you were taking them down.
It didn't really have a punch to it.
Yeah.
It just kind of ate away at the bar real slow.
And just wait until you fight against your first raid boss. Those are really hard to take down. Really, really hard.
I think that's totally fine. I'm pretty sure that was intentional, and that's the way it should be. It just sort of felt a little strange to me.
I don't know, it felt like as the game progressed, the variety of enemies kind of went down, because I remember the boss fights, one of the first ones you do, I forget who it was called, but it was one of those massive guys that has the shield, and in front of the shield he's got 3 of the little mini psychos attached to it.
Oh right, nomads, I think they're called.
Yeah, you remember what I'm talking? Yeah, and then part of the fight mechanic is if you can actually manage to shoot the chains off the shield, the little 3 mini cycles will jump off and help you fight that boss, which is kind of cool. And I was thinking as the game goes on, the boss mechanics get kind of less and less interesting. It goes from really dynamic events where you kind of have those little side options to just a guy in a giant robot suit you gotta shoot until he dies, or a giant alien you just gotta shoot until it dies.
Yeah, it's the Destiny variety of boss mechanics, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, not even to that level, but just, I guess a little bit more variety to them. I think the game, it's a fun game, no doubt, and, it's a good ARPG with a lot of loot and a lot of friends, but I think after a while, the game kind of was riding on the, the tales of, really funny, really funny dialogue and saying, oh, hey, it's a great sequel to Borderlands, and they kind of didn't do enough to take it to the next level. I think it was just as good as the last game, but that,
It felt to me, I feel like the whole Borderlands series, the atmosphere definitely carries the game, because the combat's not, it's good, I enjoy playing it, but it's not spectacular. It's the environment, the art style, the voice acting, all that stuff makes the game.
Because it is real funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I mean, was it Handsome Jack is probably one of my favorite written characters in years.
Yeah, he's great. The voice actor really has fun with that character. Everything that he says is highly quotable, and it's gold. It's just gold.
So I agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to trash the game because it's still a lot of fun, but I think it's just I'm being critical because when I think of sequels, especially direct sequels like that, I really think of, I guess, Left 4 Dead as the magnum opus of how a game should progress. Where Left 4 Dead 2 gave you everything that was in Left 4 Dead 1, but it expanded the mechanics. It added a whole melee mechanic. It added new weapons. It added new versatile enemies, different stages, and as a whole, it felt like a vast improvement on the previous iteration. Where with Borderlands 2, it feels like you're getting more of the same. It's still good, but it doesn't really do anything to kind of differentiate itself.
Yeah, I wouldn't really agree, well, not fully agree, because I can clearly see a difference between the first one and the second one. The second one just feels that much tighter, just more well developed. There seems to be a lot more thought poured into that one as opposed to the first one. The first one was good as well, but the second one, it just feels better.
So it just felt like they hit their stride kind of with the second one.
Yeah, exactly. It felt like they fully realized what they wanted to do with Borderlands 1, if you know what I mean.
I mean, I'll agree to that with the expansion packs, especially with Dragon's Keep, the Tiny Teen expansion, the new classes that they added, the Necromancer and the Psycho.
Yeah.
I mean, those things alone definitely show there was a vast improvement. But I mean, at least for me, if I'm taking the base game of Borderlands 2, I don't think it did enough to move past Borderlands 1.
No, it's just, in terms of variety, and I mean gun variety, it's streets ahead. I like the characters a whole lot more. I like the emphasis on characters a bit more. That was something that was missing, at least to me, in the first one. It did have a story, but it wasn't. Well, it was all right. Handsome Jack and that whole story arc actually gave the world of Pandora a really good villain and a decent story to go along with it, which is why it wins in my book.
And I think in terms of wacky shit, they went way farther with Borderlands 2.
Oh yeah.
I don't remember anything being as out of control in the first one as it is in the second one.
Yeah, that's true. It gets even worse in the pre-sequel, though. But that's a story for another time.
So, I mean, in terms of that, like, I think they did a great job. I like the guns that when you reload, they throw like a grenade.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was actually kind of cool. You actually throws the gun out and it explodes.
So I don't think that they were trying to really advance in a mechanical sense. I think that they were trying to advance in like the atmosphere and the more stuff sense. And I think they nailed it.
There's a gun in one of the expansions. It's a gun that shoots little swords that explode. I mean, done. Game of the year for me.
So, do you guys think that I've wondered about this a lot? Do you guys think it was a missed opportunity to put PvP in this game, like a PvP multiplayer?
Nah.
No?
Well,
no.
what would you do?
It's the same issue you have with Diablo, where the PvE element of it is supposed to be so ridiculously overpowered because, like Chris said, you get guns that shoot little tiny swords that explode. Yes. Like, you're supposed to be so over the top with, like, insanity and weapons that becomes almost impossible to balance on a PvP aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's in my mind, that's always what I thought would fit a Borderlands multiplayer, would be just a crazy, unbalanced, just ridiculousness. Like it's not even a standard format. People get their guns and stuff from the single player mode, and then you just go into multiplayer with whatever you have.
Yeah, but I mean, how much fun could that be? Because I remember dueling people. I mean, you would one-shot them. Like, the duel would be over. It just became a matter of who could pull the trigger the fastest.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Also, you definitely could not do a single player carryover. It would have to be some kind of fresh start in like an arena-based mode, and I don't think that the actual running and gunning mechanics stand up well enough to make it a satisfying multiplayer
Well,
shooter.
yeah. So yeah, I think that too, but I think they don't hold up enough so much that it would make it kind of hilarious to play. I don't know. Maybe I'm idealizing it, but I think there's a multiplayer mode that Borderlands would work awesome with. Like,
There could be, but they'd have to be creative with it. Like, you couldn't have the standard, like 3v3 kind of like deathmatch.
No,
mode.
I'm thinking of stuff like Capture the Flag or King of the Hill, more like Halo than.
I'd say it'd be great as like a Super Monday Night Combat.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, that'd be
That'd
awesome.
be a good fit for
Like,
like
it's
a
not
Borderlands multiplayer.
not intended to be a competitive thing, It's just get in there, kind of cause chaos, but yeah, that's always I always thought a multiplayer experience with Borderlands would be really cool.
Slight imbalance is fun, to accommodate for different playstyles, but in a game like Borderlands with so many different variables, like so much RNG for the guns, you could conceivably get a gun that is very bad right next to some of the legendaries, and people would just use the legendaries in PvP, which takes away the fun, really. And even the legendaries, the set guns with the set stats, even those are imbalanced when you pit them against each other. So I don't really know if Borderlands needs PvP. I think its PvE is really strong as it is. Yeah.
And plus that would introduce a grind, which I didn't feel like was very present in the single player experience, which was great. Maybe I didn't get far enough to where you have to start grinding for specific guns, but I thought the lack of the grind was really cool. It was like there's so much interesting stuff that you never really had to grind for specific loot.
I never really grinded for specific loot. I don't have a single legendary. I just use guns that are found in chests or got from boss fights, and that's basically it.
Yeah.
I never had the feeling that I had to grind to progress. Never.
Yeah, that's what I thought was great.
What did you guys feel about the whole gold chest mechanic?
What's up with that? I got some keys. What is that all about?
Oh, you go and use them.
Basically, there's that golden chest in, was it Sanctuary? Is the name of the town? If you open that chest, it'll actually you have like a guaranteed drop rate for like a couple legendary weapons and things like that. But the issue is they're tied to your level. So whenever you open it with a new key at a new level, you'll get basically something that's equally powerful and appropriate for whatever level you're opening.
The way that most people use that is that they finish the story once and then they go to ultimate or true Vault Hunter mode, which is the second difficulty level, and then people use all the keys so they can start the new playthrough on a higher difficulty level with very good gear.
I don't know, like, and I'm kind of torn about that mechanic because on the one hand, it's supposed to be something kind of cool to help you along the gameplay. Where hey, I'm level 30, let me open this up real quick and get some cool weapons for level 30. But it kind of became this unwritten rule where if you really want to min-max your approach, you cannot touch that chest until you max your level out and then start your second playthrough.
Yeah, but it's fully optional. If you want to use them right now, you can do that, and you can probably get something decent out of it. If you don't want to do that, if you want to min-max, then you can just keep your keys until your max level and then get them. And you're not pushed to that mechanic at all. It refers to it once or twice. The first time you go to Sanctuary, and after that, it just leaves it up to you what you want to do with it. So I don't really have a problem with it because it's fully optional.
How do you get more keys?
Shift codes.
Yeah, shift codes.
Shift codes. Yeah, it's you really saw it when the game first launched, where they had a lot of like a social media kind of contests or posts where sign on to this contest and unlock these codes or decipher this message and get this code. And it was kind of like it's supposed to be this big interactive experience for it.
And they still release them on Twitter.
Yeah, they do. Did you, by the way, about the promo campaign, there was a time, like, in the lead up to the pre-sequel, like, they started with that slightly after the release of Borderlands 2, and I don't think they're still doing it now, but for an extended period of time, characters from the game would take over the Twitter account, and those characters would use Twitter for extended periods of time, and it was all in character, and it was hilarious.
Oh my god, I remember that with what was the guy from Torque?
Yeah, Mr. Torque.
Oh, him.
The Macho Man Randy Savage amalgam.
Explosions! It's really good. Like, I like the commitment to the joke.
Yeah, the one thing Borderlands has going for it has such a cavacle of characters and personality to it.
Yeah.
Between Handsome Jack, Mr. Torque, Mad Moxie, like they're completely unique characters that when you hear their name, you'll instantly recognize who they are.
Like I said earlier about the atmosphere, this game is just. It's probably got the best atmosphere, if not the best, one of the best of any game I've played.
I think that's super evident because we haven't, like, in this conversation, we haven't really spoke much as to the actual, like, gameplay gunfiring mechanics, and it's all about the atmosphere and the story and, like, the boombastic nature of the game as a whole. So I absolutely agree with you that is its greatest strength.
Yeah, the writing is very strong.
Yeah, see, that was the point I was trying to make earlier, where from a mechanics standpoint, it kind of feels pretty similar, but what really puts it above everything else is just, like I said, the time and care they took with writing the character of Handsome Jack, and I mean, even finding the little, like, the random echoes throughout the world, it encourages you because it adds so much background to the story.
Yeah, for a game that's that zany, there's a surprising amount of well-written lore beneath the surface.
Yeah, man, it was fantastic. I mean, and even the character kind of like Claptrap, I mean, again, like, he became such a comical kind of staple to the series. I mean, do you guys remember getting invited to Claptrap's birthday?
Yeah, that was tragic.
Or did you guys not make it that far? Well, spoilers, but there's a part in the game where, like, he basically has a birthday party for himself, and nobody shows up, obviously, so he's kind of just sitting there by himself. And it's really funny, but really sad at the same time when you're looking at it. But I think it gives you a chance to get some loot out of it, because he also has a chest you can open up. But it's just kind of him sitting in the back of alley by himself, singing Happy Birthday.
Oh, poor Claptrap.
He is. The Claptrap is just a sequence of kick the dog moments. It's such a tragic character. He's a bit of a staple of the series now.
Overall, man, I'd say Borderlands 2 is an excellent game.
It is.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic.
Probably one of my favorites. It's a game that I keep coming back to every so often and then play for 10 or 20 hours. It's just so enjoyable. It's a great game, and I'm glad that you guys liked it.
It was a hoot. So if you want to hear what game we'll be playing for our game club next week, tune into the podcast, which you can get to by clicking the annotation on this video, and let us know your thoughts about the game club. We want you to weigh in. Send us an email to selectcharacters@gmail.com or find us on Twitter, Facebook, here on YouTube, wherever. We want to hear from you. So stay tuned, and until next time, have a great week. Next time.